Okay, today's lecture is about the price level that we have studied last week on the GDP, right? Okay, to recap what we learned last week, first we learned about how to measure the national output, which is equal to national income and national expenditure, because we have three approaches to measure GDP. What we are interested is the expenditure approach and the identity equation that we had, y equal to c plus I plus g plus nx, was the GDP of an economy, which equal to income, which is we use y, right? And then it also equal to the value of the final goods and services produced and recorded the data or the information by the government. So we have discussed as well two types of GDP, which is nominal and real. When we talk about nominal GDP, that is the GDP at the market price. Okay, so it is summation of PI and QI in each year, and we sum it up from product I to N. We got a nominal GDP. Another one is real GDP. When we fix the price, you may recall to the slides that we had only 3 years of the price on hamburger and hot dogs. And then we fix the price on the first year so that we can see how the value of the product changed over the year, right? So you can see that over time, as the economy grew, then the GDP, I mean, even we use the fixed price, we can see the growing in the value of the GDP. So that is the growth in the real term. So when we divided nominal and real, we got a GDP deflator. So that was the first price level we learned last week. So today we will do another type of price level, and this one is called the consumer price index. That is the most popular. It is used to measure the cost of living, right? So how to measure the overall cost of living? Most of the economists use the concept of consumer price index. Actually, we have also others like producer price index and others, but CPI is the most popular. There is reason. If you remember, in the GDP, the largest proportion of the expenditure in the economy is consumption, right? So that's why we are interested in how the change in price affect the consumer, because they are the majority of the economy. So CPI is used to monitor changes in the cost of living over time, and it is the indicators or index that want to tell how typical family. So I want you to take some time to think about what is typical family. Do you have any idea what is the meaning of the typical family? Who is typical family? Why we are interested only in the typical family? Because they are the majority of the economy, right? We do not want to tell how the CPI affect the riches of the people in the economy, because they are not the majority of our population, right? So that case, CPI try to see the impact on the general consumer. Many of you may not be the typical family if you see the definition in the slides. So the change in CPI has a strong relationship with the inflation, which is the phenomenon that overall price in the economy has been rising. And these are the things that we experience over the course of 60, 40, 60 years, right? But in the past few years, when the price of the gasoline dropped a lot, we experienced a short term for the deflation, because you can guess what, right? Why it is deflation? Because gasoline is a part of the CPI calculation, as we will see today. Okay, how to measure the cost of living? The inflation, actually, it is the situation in which the economy's overall price level is rising. So we need to understand how it is measured, how it is calculated, what is the assumption behind the calculation of the CPI and the inflation. So inflation, it is the rate of change in the price level from the previous period. Like this year, how the price is different from the last year. If it is increasing, then we can see the rate of change is positive, and that's called inflation. If it is negative, so we would call it deflation. So we are interested in the CPI, okay? And it is the overall cost of the goods and services bought by a typical consumer. For the US, Bureau of Labor Statistics is responsible for this. They collect the data every month, and then they put that data of the price in of the goods that they are interested. Actually, the goods that they are interested, they are the good that the typical consumer consume. So they need to do the survey. And then they put that data into probably the computer, because they have the IT system. So they input, and then it can calculate what is the cost of living in each month. So this is used to monitor the change in the cost of living over time. We also have the organization that responsible for doing this. It is the Department of Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce. In Thai, it is probably, I think it is Krom Karn Kha Phai Na. You can do Google, and then you can see the document that explain about this. So when we have come up with the price level in each economy, like the CPI, when it rises, it means it affects the family, right? Because they have to spend more money to maintain the same standard of living. Another term here is this. What is the same standard of living? What is the standard of living? The same standard of living means. Who want to try?
How they spend money,
How they spend money? Actually, it is about the bundle of goods. Okay, if I ask, you have some level of standard of living, right? So it's like you consume a bundle of goods every month. For example, in a month, you may have one international buffet, and then you go to theater twice a month, go to gym 10 times a month, and have meal every day. That is a standard of living of you, right? So if the price of the ticket, the price of the buffet increase, you can see that you have to get more money to maintain that level of living, right? So the same standard of living, actually, it represents, or it tells us about what is the bundle of the goods that typical consumer consume every month. You get what I explained, right? So in this case, in order to maintain the same standard of living, Okay, this is in Thai. I just put it from the Thai class, but it explained the same for some and whom you do not have to worry. So it explained what we had discussed earlier, like the CPI. It measured the cost of purchased goods and services for a typical consumer. That is the first bullet. The second, it is the Ministry of Commerce who is responsible for the CPI in Thailand, and it is indicate the inflation of the countries. And okay, so in this one, we have the English version in your slide, but I just want to make it clear for the Thai student that what we have two types of CPI, and it is called, the first one is headline inflation index, and the second is core inflation index. So the difference are this. When we talk about the headline inflation index, it means the CPI that we include all the goods and services. All the goods and services means all the goods that are surveyed, okay, that typical consumer consume every month. For example, gasoline, meat products, vegetable, transportation, schooling, food, restaurant, and recreation. So in headline, it contains everything. But when we talk about the core inflation index, this is like we want to remove the category of products that has some seasonal change in the supply, or it is like sensitive to the market price change like gasoline, because it depends on the world market, right? So the core inflation index, we remove two categories. The first is the food, especially the fresh like meat and vegetable, and then the energy, we remove this and we get the core inflation index. So you may distinguish the difference between the two, right? The headline include everything, and the second is removing two categories that fluctuate in the short run. So in the past in Thailand, like the Bank of Thailand, who is doing the policy to maintain the stability in the price, they're looking at the core inflation index more than headline inflation. But recently, they tend to shift their focus to the headline. So I think headline is more correct, that it represents the cost of living of the typical consumer. Okay, so headline. And this is similar to what we have in the English version. It is like when we want to see how the typical consumers can maintain the standard of living, first thing they have to divide the goods and services in the market into smaller groups like this. In Thailand, we have 7 groups. Like the first one is food and beverage. Second is about the garment. Third is housing. Healthcare in the fourth. Transportation and communication in the fifth. Recreation and education in the sixth. And we have the seventh for cigarettes and beverage with alcohol. Guess what? In Thailand, we have the 7th group as one of the main product that typical Thai consumer consume. So the change in the price of cigarette and liquor, it will affect the cost of living of the Thai people. Interesting, right? And when we talk about what is the base year in the first Okay, for Sam and Hearn, you do not have to worry because in the English version, we will follow the same concept, but this is just to give the idea for the students. Like in Thailand, at first we have the base year in 2541. That is a Buddhist calendar. In international year, it is 1998. Okay, it was the base year in the past. And the typical consumer, they will have this characteristic, like the household members will be 2 to 6 people, and the household income will be, please notice, this is household income, okay? 6,000 to 43,000 baht per month. And this is non-monetary income, less than 30%, and they live in the municipal area. So what changed in last 5 years? We changed the base year to 2015, right? This one, 2015 as the base year. And you can see that the number of the family members reduced to 1 to 5. So this reflects the change in the demographic and social in Thailand. Thai people tend to be a smaller family. But the income of the household increased from the previous one, like 6,000 to 43,000. It increased to 12,000 to 62,000 baht per month per household. So if you're looking at this, only this, the income of the household, you may be able to say that you are not typical consumer. I believe that your family has income monthly greater than 60,000, right? So in this case, the CPI that we will study, it may not reflect the cost of your standard of living, but it affects most of the Thai people in this case, right? Okay, what are the steps to do the CPI? Okay, this is similar to the English version, so I will skip to that. First one is fix the basket. This determines what prices are most important for the typical consumer. Fix the basket is like the 7 groups of the goods and services that I showed earlier, okay? The Bureau of Labor Statistics identified this. For the Thai people, Department of International Trade, right? So in this case, for the textbook, the author explained like this. If consumer tend to buy more hot dogs than hamburger, so in this case, the price of hot dog is more important than hamburger, right? And then it will be given greater weight in the calculation. So the BLS conducts monthly consumer survey to set the weight for the price of those goods and services. So in Thailand, okay, they did the same. They are doing the same. They want to see which goods is more important for Thai consumer, okay? And they give the weight into that. Then the second step, after they get the basket, they search for the price. When they search for the price, they try to get the price of all the goods and services in the basket. The third, they put that price and the weighted into the Excel probably, and then they compute the basket cost, okay? And once they get the price and quantity, they get the cost, so they can use this to compare the cost of that basket over time. In order to see how the price change, they need to find a base year. A base year should be the year that is that was everything is normal as possible. Like there should be no disaster like flooding, earthquake. There should not be the riot in the economy. There should not be the year that had coup d'etat. There should not be the year that there is a global economic problems that will affect the price. Okay, so it should be the normal year. So in Thailand, you see that firstly, we use the year 1998, probably before you were born, right? But why it was 1998? Actually, it is not actually. It is not the normal year because we had the financial crisis in 1997. But I do not know why they said that is the base year, and then they set another base year 2015. Okay, 2015 probably after 17 years the government changed, so they may believe that it was the most normal year for Thai. Actually, we had not the normal year for decades, right? But anyway, that probably the most normal year for Thai people, so they chose that. So once we have the base year, okay, we will calculate the price of the basket of goods and services in the current year and divided by the price of the basket in the base year. So you may think of the price of the basket as the cost of living in each year when we are interested in 2017, then it is a cost in 2017. And we divided cost in the base year, okay? Multiply by 100, we will see, we will get the index, cost of living index, or the CPI, okay? So now, from the first four steps, once we have the CPI, then we are ready to compute the growth in price, which is called inflation. So inflation is calculated like this. We just compare the CPI from this year over the last year, like year 2 minus CPI in year 1, divided by CPI in year 1 multiplied by 100. So we get inflation in year 2. So if you are interested in the inflation of 2020, we need to find the CPI this year, okay? And then we subtract from with the CPI in the last year, and then divided by CPI last year, so 2019, multiplied by 100, we will see the rate of change in the price. Okay, up to this point, do you have any question?
Not yet, huh?
So everything is okay? So it seems that we have more students than I teach in class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fern. Who is Fern actually? What is your name, Fern?
Fern is Sasirada, huh?
Sasirada, okay. So no one ready to turn on the video. Okay, never mind. So it's like I speak alone. But everyone is okay, right? You understand up to this point you have understood all the points, right? Okay, so the next one is the example. Okay, this is for simplicity. ManQ had, again, assume in the basket, there are only 2 products. 4 hot dogs and 2 hamburgers. That is step 1, right? But actually we have maybe 1,000 or 2,000 items in the basket. The second, step 2, we find the price of each good in each year. So again, you can see that they use the same price as in the previous chapter, right? Price of hot dog increased from 1 to 3 in 3 years. And the price of hamburgers increased from 2, 3, 4 in 3 years. Then we calculate the cost of living. The cost of living in the first year is 8 per basket. The second year, 14. The third year, 20. So what is different is this, right? When we talk about GDP, we change the quantity. But now the quantity is unchanged, you see, because we fix the basket, right? If we talk about the GDP, we find the value of the product produced and transaction or sold in a year. So in the previous chapter, the quantity changed. But for CPI, we fix the basket. That's why these two, the quantity of goods, they are fixed. And the reason for the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the Department of Internal Trade in Thailand, they conduct survey because they want to see whether this basket is still valid. So there must be some time period that people change their preference, right? So in reality, they need to conduct a survey to make sure that what is actually the basket of the typical consumer, okay? But for example, in this one, we just fix this to show that, okay, how the basket is computed. So after we get the cost of living, the cost of the basket, then the step 4 is we have to pick base year, and then we can compute the CPI. For instance, if we select the first year as the base year, we will get that the cost of the basket will be 8 as in this, right? And then to calculate the CPI, so this is this, okay? This is the base year. So the CPI is like, we find the cost of each year of the basket. So the first year is 8, so the CPI equal to 100. The second year, the cost of the basket is 14, the CPI is 175, and then 250, like this, okay? So the next step is to calculate the inflation. The inflation is like the change in the CPI from this year to the next year. Like for the 2005, the cost of the basket is 100. 2006 is 175. Then the difference is this, right? The rate of change. CPI in year 2 minus CPI in year 1 divided by CPI in year 1. Then we multiply by 100, we get the percentage of change. So in this case, 75% it reflects the cost of living increased by 75% from the previous year. And then 2007, it's about 43%. Or we can do the calculation like over the course of 2 years, like the base is 2002 and then 2004, the same basket. So you may just imagine like when you purchase the New Year gift, okay, you may see that in the, I'm not sure whether it's still popular, like the New Year gift that you purchase from the supermarket. In the basket, it contains several things, right? Coffee, tea, and probably liquor or fruit in the basket. So if you want to buy every year, like to purchase 10 basket of gift to your customer, for example, if you run a business, you need to buy 10 baskets every year. So the cost is changed like this. Inside the basket, it still contains the same combination of goods. So this is like the same concept as the cost of living or the basket of goods that we discussed earlier, right? But if we have the point of, the price in 2 points in time, like in 2 years. So what we can see is that the prices change 3% over the course of 2 years. So the rate of change, actually, inflation is year by year, quarter by quarter, monthly, right? So we can do this in any time period, okay? So the active learning, the calculate the CPI, actually, I think I want to hide this slide, but I think it's better to print everything and upload for you. So all you have this slide, right? So the basket in this case is like for some group of consumer, the basket contains 2 goods, like 20 movie tickets and 10 textbook. So it's probably the CPI of the students, right? Study and recreation. So the table shows the price of the over the 3 years, and the base year is 2004. Okay, so this is the price. How much did the basket cost in 2004? What is CPI 2005 and inflation rate 2005 to 2006? So can you do that? If you did not see the answer, how much did the basket cost in 2004? What we have to do is multiply the price and the quantity, right? So we get 10 multiplied by 20 movie tickets, and the price of goods 50 multiplied by the quantity 10. So we get the basket cost 700. Okay. Second, what is CPI in the second year? We have to calculate the cost of the basket in 2005, which is 800. Okay, because the price of the book changed, but the price of movie ticket did not change. And in the third year, the price of ticket changed, but the book did not change, right? So to calculate the CPI is, we need the cost of the basket in 2005, which is 800. And we need to use the answer from the first question, which is the cost of living in the base year, right? So we just divide 800 with 700 multiplied by 100, we get 114. So if we want to compare the inflation in the second year, like 2005, what is the inflation rate? Can I ask ชื่ออะไรนะ PY นี่ชื่อจริงชื่อลืมไปแล้ว
ค่ะอาจารย์
Can you find the inflation rate for the second year compared to the first year. What is the inflation?
Inflation on 2005 เหรอ
Yes.
โอเคค่ะสักครู่นะคะ
มุกสุดา
ค่ะอาจารย์
Can you answer?
กำลังคิดอยู่ค่ะ แต่ไม่น่าจะตอบถูกค่ะ
Why not?
อาจารย์ถามคนอื่นก่อนเลยค่ะ
ไม่ค่อยถ่อม
หรือ
ตั
เป
ว
ล่า
เลย
คะอาจารย์
เท่าไหร่นะฮะ
800หรือเปล่า
No, I asked inflation in the second year.
อ๋อ
Because we have the CPI in the second year like this, right? In order to calculate the inflation, we need to calculate the change in CPI this year with the previous year, right?
yes
Okay. So if you follow the lecture today and you did not get sleep
5% หรือเปล่าคะอาจารย์
เท่าไหร่นะ
5% ค่ะ
5%. Why is 5%? How you get that?
I calculate the CPI in 2016
This one is
And
2000. No. I asked
2000
I asked this.
rate
I asked the.
Rate มัน
This is
มาล
not.
บกัน
This is not the question C question. I just asked. We get the answer from the this right answer from the question A. We get the basket cost 700, and then the second week I asked the CPI in 2005, so we get 800, and the CPI the cost of basket is 800. Then CPI is 114, right? 114.3. So in order to calculate the inflation, you need to do what? You need to use the CPI 2005 minus CPI in 2004.
okay.
Divide by CPI in 2004 and then multiply by 100. So actually this is one of the most easy answer. Why? Because CPI in the base year must be equal to 100, right? And then we get a CPI in the second year, 114. So this will tell us like inflation is 14.3% from the base year. Okay, so
yes.
It seems that you need to calculate a lot, but if you understand the concept like CPI, how to calculate it, it is a cost of living, right? And then we must find the base year so that we can divide that CPI in each year over CPI in the base year. Since 2004 is our base year, we can say that in the base year, CPI must be equal to 100. So when you're looking at the statistic, no matter it is in Thailand, Cambodia, Japan, or United States, if you find the CPI in which year as 100, you can tell that is the base year. Because the other years, it will not, I think it is not possible to be 100. It must be 100 point something, right? Because the price in the system must be changing. So if you find the 100, that is the base year. So in this case, the inflation 2005 over 2004, it is 14%. So let's see the third question. The inflation from 2005 to 2006, what you need to do is you have to calculate the cost of the basket in 2006. Otherwise, you cannot get the CPI, right? So there are three steps. The first, you get the cost of basket 840, and then you get the CPI 120. Once you get CPI 120, you need to use the answer of this, right, to calculate the inflation. You see, 114.3. So this is 5%. So the answer is like the inflation between 2005 and 6 is 5%, as you may answer. But my question was in in question B, what is the inflation from 2004 to 5? Okay. So that is to do the exercise. So you should try to do this by yourself. In the United States, what is the biggest proportion is housing, transportation, food, beverage, education and communication, medical, recreation, apparel, and other goods. So in Thailand, I'm not sure, but it should reflect the same. Housing and transportation will be the largest, right? And then food. So you can see that the basic thing that we need to consume, it is the main expenditure for typical consumer. So the rise in the price of goods, the rise in the price of gasoline, it affects most of the economy. That's why we need to have the departments or office that collect the data on this so that we can monitor how the fluctuation in price will have the impact to the economy. Okay. Okay, up to this point, do you have any question?
No ค่ะ
No? Okay. So I think we have about half of the chapter left. So I want to discuss this in class. Do you think it's okay?
ได้ค่ะ so it will be on Thursday ใช่ไหมคะ
Huh? What?
The
Thursday, yes,
this
yes.
part will be on Thursday
Yes,
โอเค
yes.
ค่ะ
So Thursday, I'm not sure because this thing we need to discuss and I think discuss in class is better. It's quite, you need to connect this, to understand these slides, you need to understand what we discuss in macroeconomics a little bit so that it's better to have the face-to-face lecture, not like this, because no one turned on the camera. Okay, any question up to this point? Hyung and Sam, is it okay with you?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. And Sam? So you both stay at dormitory,
okay.
right?
We stay in separate place.
Oh, okay, okay. So everyone, thank you for attending the class, even though this is a holiday in Thailand. But on Thursday, we will continue on this and please review, okay? And I will have some question for you on Thursday, because this topic actually is quite important to most of us, okay? Like if you do the business, why CPI matter? If you are working in the labor market, why you need to understand the CPI, okay? So we will discuss this on Thursday, okay? So no one say, okay, I will continue.
โอเคค่ะอาจารย์
โอเค
มุกสุดามาเลยนะครับ โอเคครับ thank you and see you on Thursday good luck
ขอบ
everyone
คุณค่ะอาจาร
ครับ
ย์
ผ
สวั
ม
สดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดี
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับผม
ค่ะ